There is an interpretation of the law of attraction that encourages us to deny our physical circumstances of any real validity, to quite literally ignore whatever troubles and turmoil we may be facing, to shut our eyes in the face of opposition, as if this act alone would make the opposition cease to exist. Yet many of us attempt to achieve even our simplest of desires through this delusional way of thinking and still seemingly fail. James Allen, on the other hand, a pioneer of New Thought philosophy, approaches the idea of manifesting from a truly deeper point of view with a strong emphasis on honesty. Honesty in who you are, honesty in where you are, no matter how wretched and undesirable the physical truth may currently be. Accept it, understand it, let it go, and create something better. Because if your horrid physical circumstances is the substance of your inner world, then wouldn't you be interested in discovering what within you created them, if only so you could never create them again? Today we're going to dive into the life and ideology of philosopher James Allen, an influence of Norman Vincent Peale, Dale Carnegie, and Napoleon Hill. The fear around facing our miserable physical circumstances is rooted in our understanding of the simple concept of like attracts like. If you recognize your undesirable physical circumstances as reality, then you're, in a sense, aligning with it and identifying with it, thereby continuing the loop of a dissatisfying life experience. And while this is certainly in agreement with everything the law of assumption specifically has taught us, for James Allen, he still finds practical use in the acknowledgement of what physically is. But does this mean that you just ruminate on all of your negative experiences with no clear objective? Wouldn't this be counteractive in the pursuit towards achieving all that you desire? Self-control is a tenet in the philosophy of James Allen, and it appeared to be quite an important one, because once a person has gained self-control, a person is now in alignment with what James calls the great law. He knows good and evil, right and wrong, and thus, knowing them, lives in accordance with good and right, and there is no remorse. His mind is in unison with the great law, and there is no more suffering and sin. For him, evil is ended, and good is all in all. It is within the following 5-step process for gaining self-control, where we begin to see Allen clearly advocate for fearlessly facing your physical reality. Step 1, introspection, which is the point in which you suspend gratification gained from worldly pleasures or ethereal visions in favor of simple observation of your nature, your unrefined inclinations, the workings of your mind, exactly as it is. Step 2, self-analysis. Having observed your mind in its current state, you examine its tendencies of good and bad. You analyze the actions you inevitably take and the ramifications of these actions based upon the workings of your mind. This is a process of testing and proving. Step 3, adjustment. By this time, the practical student of things divine has clearly before him every tendency and aspect of his nature, down to the profundest promptings of his mind and the most subtle motives of his heart. There is not a spot or corner left which he has not explored and illuminated with the light of self-examination. He is familiar with every weak and selfish point, every strong and virtuous quality. It is considered the height of wisdom to be able to see ourselves as others see us, but the practitioner of self-control goes far beyond this. He not only sees himself as others see him, he sees himself as he is. He is no longer in a state of confusion, but has gained a glimpse of the laws which operate in the world of thought, and he now begins to adjust his mind in accordance with those laws. This is a process of weeding, sifting, cleansing. So the student removes the weeds of evil from his mind, cleanses and purifies it, preparatory to sowing the seeds of righteous actions, which are produced to harvest of a well ordered life. In more modern terms, this would be the simple equivalent of just examining and readjusting your thoughts and patterns. For example, why do you believe that you are not cut out for positions like this? Why do you believe that all men are dogs? Why are you so willing to chase after people who clearly do not want you? What are these beliefs, thoughts, and patterns rooted in, and how do we uproot them to leave space for the flowers that you've been trying to grow? Step 4, righteousness. This is a process of planting better thoughts of good with the understanding of what Alan calls the great central law, or the law of justice or righteousness. So you begin to no longer act from self, but rather does what is universally right. You are no longer a slave to your nature or circumstance, but rather have become the master of your nature and circumstance. The law now conforms as you deny the habit of thinking and acting blindly based upon the appearance of circumstances, and instead command your attention and resulting actions to align with the central law. In summary, this would be the point where you begin to consciously project your desires. Step 5, pure knowledge. Having endured through all previous steps, you now have reached a point where you've essentially proven the law with your own eyes. And because Alan tends to speak in a highly intellectual manner, I'll just break it down for our own sanity. Step 5, pure knowledge, is when you notice your physical circumstances warping to reflect your changed perspective. This could be reflected as a full-blown manifestation of your desires or simpler confirmations, but in any case, you no longer long for verification, preferring to embrace stillness, a state of calm and perfect certainty. Now, this state is the state of the wish fulfilled. This is the state you'd be occupying whenever someone says to occupy the state. Anytime you ever hear someone say live in the end, this is the feeling end of what they were referring to, this state. Now, as I probably previously already mentioned, sometimes the knowledge that we gather from one specific source or philosophy just isn't quite enough for us to truly comprehend what is being taught. I always find it immensely useful to go beyond just the law of attraction or beyond just the law of assumption, if necessary, in order to truly grasp it. The philosophy of James Allen I personally find to be quite a complimentary one, because it actually finds a deeper purpose for our physical circumstances. We can take our own suffering and put it to use for our own benefit. This could be quite beautiful for anyone who may at the moment be finding it rather challenging to just simply look beyond your failures, misery, and lack. Perhaps the key for you could be to just simply recognize what is, then recognize the source of what is, make amends with it, and then let it go, allowing yourself the clear mind needed to rewrite your story. Going deeper, the topic of suffering seems to be prominent in his ideas, describing it as an indication that the individual is out of harmony with himself, with the law of his being. I want to make something crystal clear here. James Allen was no stranger to profound suffering, loss, and grief. Like myself, and for the majority of the world, I'm sure, his life included themes of poverty, death, and struggle. He was raised in what would be described as a working-class family. His mother could not read nor write, making her, by definition, illiterate. Seeking financial stability for his family, his father William, a humble factory knitter, emigrated to New York City from England. He was murdered just 2 days after this. At the age of 15 and being the elder of his sibling, this left James with no other choice but to drop out of school to support the family, following in his father's fruitless steps, becoming a factory knitter. With lived experiences such as this, I find it fascinating yet somehow still predictable that James was able to somehow find the mental strength to take his suffering and redefine it, even in its darkest and most grotesque form. The sole and supreme use of suffering is to purify, to burn out all that is useless and impure. Not only was he able to accept his horrible physical reality, but somehow trained it to serve him, with his own objective delving into the darkness of his reality, mind, and soul, fearlessly and with perfect trust that he would create light. What then is the meaning of fighting against circumstances? It means that a man is continually revolting against an effect without, while all the time he is nourishing and preserving its cause in his heart. Men are anxious to improve their circumstances, but are unwilling to improve themselves. This is self-control. Well, of course, despite his bleak beginnings, James would complete his life with a flourish, becoming the successful author and journalist that he dreamed of being. James Allen passed away at the age of 47 in early 1912, but his legacy lives on through his numerous works of literature. He can be described as a prolific author and a pioneer of new thought, having written an estimated 19 works over the course of just 9 years. Neville Goddard, a true titan in New Thought philosophy, is said to have influenced the works of Reverend Ike, Wayne Dyer, and Rhonda Byrne, who's kind of responsible for reintroducing the law of attraction on a massive global scale to the heights that I honestly think the world had never seen before until that point. The law of assumption, though there is some debate on who technically first invented it, was undoubtedly popularized by Neville Goddard and has found a recent new wave thanks in part to numerous content creators who specialize in these principles. And although Neville Goddard is a figure that is certainly worthy of his success, I always find it incredibly rewarding to explore other thinkers both within and without New Thought, the pioneers and their original ideologies. Figures like James Allen, a philosopher who emphasized some things that you may have never heard Neville Goddard speak of before, or anyone else in the New Thought community. But these things would perhaps be of great benefit for you if you are still finding yourself struggling to make sense of how to apply the universal laws in your life to achieve your highest vision, and most importantly, to find that state of peace and reward that we're all after. Principles like calmness, self-control, tranquility, and yes, the power thoughts may hold over circumstances. There is far more to learn from James Allen as a teacher, and I encourage you to do so. But from my own perspective, his most compelling topics are that of the pursuit of self-control and the fearless engagement with current suffering if necessary, to not avert your eyes to the darkness of yourself and life out of fear, but to bravely examine it, dismantle it, and find the useful components. And then with these parts, build a more competent and sophisticated you, understanding that if one were to have even a wish of controlling their physical circumstances, one must first be able to control themselves. And with that being said, thank you for watching this video. I truly do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I trust you'll give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for more content just like this one. So, how did you like today's video? And what video would you like to see next? You let me know in the comment section down below. I cannot wait to see you in the next video. Toodles.